underwriting, capital raising, and just putting deals together for affordable housing ground up construction development specifically. So I can do and answer whatever topic you or
Perfect.
Corey and Michelle want to cover.
Okay. What area? Which market? This or where are
So
you
we have
located?
we're building 396 units in Princeton, Texas, 204 units in Anna, Texas, and these are about 40 minutes north of Dallas. Princeton and Anna are number 3 and number 4 on a census.gov's list for fastest growing
Wow,
cities in the United States.
nice.
Yeah, how about you, Bezo? What are you working on? I want to make sure this conversation is catered to all of you and specific and useful because I don't want to just be up here showing a presentation because it's
Okay.
all about helping you.
All right. No, I'm kind of a newbie. I have been in this single family a platform mostly in Seattle, a couple single families, but I'm new to
Great.
MFM as well since past January. But I
Okay.
was active in the first 6 months a little bit. Got a chance to be involved in one property as a limited partner, but then I have been dormant since January, so I'm just looking for a pick me up. So I am not out of
Okay, we can do that
complete.
together. That'll be fun.
All right.
I
Yeah.
love it. And let's keep going, ladies. Michelle, what are you working on? Are you
Uh,
investing anywhere specifically?
yeah, well, we just recently closed on a deal in Texas. It's
Oh,
actually in Lubbock.
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have two properties on my SREO right now. One is in Hearn and then the second one is in Lubbock. I actually just went there this past weekend, and so it was a really great experience. I finally got to meet, the team, the sponsors and KP. So it's really different when you're, because I'm a capital raiser.
Okay.
It's really different when, like you're just talking about it based on what you heard from the team, and then actually like walking through the property and having your
Yeah.
own opinions about it and then sharing it to the investors and stuff. It's a really great experience. Yeah.
And what was that? What was that deal in Lubbock? Was it a multifamily project or?
Yes, they're both multifamily, but the one in Lubbock is much bigger. It's like 171 units.
Nice. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
these are all
Yeah.
long-term rentals, I'm assuming. Are they Section 8 or anything like that, or just market rent?
Long-term rentals. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, that's super helpful. Corey, what are you working on?
We are we're underwriting a portfolio of properties in Houston from a guy that wants to get out of the Houston market, it looks like. And then
Got it.
also we've been focusing recently on where we live. We live in Los Angeles and focusing we got hooked up with a group of people that are house flippers, but
Got
also
it.
gators, sub twos, so it's like a pretty diverse group of people. So we've kind of partnered with them on some stuff locally as well. But typically, we've been focusing on multifamily the last 2.5 years, and we are limited partners on a deal in Vegas, and we got close to a deal in Midland, Texas, a few months ago. But still looking for that first one. That's ours.
Okay, no, that's super helpful. I want to make sure the conversation is useful for all of you. I mean, I can give is ground up construction development of interest to any of you three?
Yes,
Not so much
absolutely.
me, not at this point, not, but
Mm.
I'm always interested.
Okay. And Beza, how about yourself? I can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm having a phone issue here. What's the question again?
Oh, did you want to learn about ground up construction specifically or financing options? What would suit you the best?
No, I'm just here to learn whatever is there to be offered. Like I said, I'm trying to come out of a rut, and so yeah.
Well, we can do that together. Okay, so let me kind of steer this conversation in a few ways and make it as relevant as possible for so Michelle, Corey, you just closed on the deal, you're working on closing the deals. And in the world of affordable housing, have you guys heard of the concept low income housing tax credits?
I've heard of low income
Yes.
housing, like Section 8 and stuff. Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
personally, I don't know much about it. I've heard some people prefer it over, like regular type of deals. And I want to learn, what is it all about and how is it advantageous over other types of deals?
Okay. All right. So this is going to be good. Let me share my screen really quick and we can go through a few different topics because at the end of the day, my skill set is the finance execution strategies. I know how to underwrite deals very well. But my superpower, you want to call it that, is creativity, deal structuring, and just understanding how to apply different financing strategies to each type of project. Now, for low income housing tax credits, now some of you might have heard, I'm assuming you both know how the capital stack works, right? You got your debt, you got some mezz debt, you got preferred equity, and you got equity. Now, typically, right, what do you usually get in a multifamily ad deal? You might get 60, 70% loan of value. In the ground up development world, it's very common for you to only get a loan for about 60, 70, unless you're getting a HUD loan, which can go up to 87% loan to cost. Now, whenever you have that deal, you have a gap. So how do one group close that gap? Well, in the world of affordable housing, there is a thing called the low income housing tax credits. There are 4% tax credits, which are non-competitive because there's no cap on them. And there's 9% tax credits. And if you are in finance, the easiest way to think about it is if you can get your 4% tax credits for your deal, assuming your taxable basis is the same. Whoops. Oh. I'll just go back to it afterwards. I'll just keep scrolling through and come back to it. Now, when you have a 4% tax credits, what you're going to end up having to do is you'll probably end up getting 30% of the equity that you need for the entire deal, which means you probably need debt or equity for the other portion. When you get a 9% tax credit deals, you are essentially getting a probably close to 70% of your capital stack for that deal. Now, usually these deals have restrictions on them, which means that they might have what we call as a land use restriction agreement. Mm-hmm. So it might say, hey, for 15 years, you got to keep a certain amount of units affordable. Now, people might think it's low income, but let's take Los Angeles, where the area median income is about 100 grand. Low income can just simply mean 80% of the area median income. So the common misconception in the affordable housing world is that everybody thinks it's Section 8, everybody thinks it's guns, drugs, drama, the poorest of the poor. But let's take Los Angeles. There's the ED1 directive, which essentially states that if you do a 100% affordable project, which means that all your units are set aside for people making 80%, which for a 4-person household is 100 grand. A family that makes 100 grand qualifies to live there. Those are your EMTs, your firefighters, your teachers, your restaurant workers, like good people, not the slums, not the ghetto, but those people will qualify to live there. And when you apply and do a ground up construction project in Los Angeles, as example, well, you can get your project approved in 6 months instead of 2 to 3 years. And just think about the holding cost savings that you get from pursuing an affordable project. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then in the state of California, there's welfare tax exemptions, right? Welfare tax exemptions means that if you do a certain units of your project set aside, you get to waive all your property taxes. I think you both know how big of a difference property taxes make on your net operating income. So you can say, hey, look, let's say you save $1 million in property taxes, divide that on a 5.5 cap, you just created $18 million of value from doing an affordable project. So this is why I think affordable housing on a risk-adjusted basis is the best investment in real estate because of all the different levers that you can pull to make a deal that might not have been a deal for somebody else, especially market rate luxury Class A apartments. And these are still all very, very good deals. And these are beautiful projects. They might not have your luxury trim, but they might still have a pool, right? So there's no shame in affordable housing. It's not guns, drugs, or drama. It's depending on how you structure the deal, you can create immense amount of value. So let me share a little bit more about how I'm structuring deals. So I just recently had a guest on the podcast. She was the former mayor of Cambridge, Massachusetts. She's still on the housing chair. So I said, hey, how do you guys have any city-owned land that you guys can contribute to building affordable housing? They said, yes, they're going to RFP 2 parking lots. But in the past 6 years, they've been working so hard on zoning changes, which means now in that area, if you do 100% affordable, you can build up to 15 stories by right. So a neighbor can't just come in and sue your project and hold up the entire project anymore. Big, big difference. So think about it. If you now have a land contributed from the city, and you can have the city contribute a little bit of money from their affordable housing trust fund to fund the soft costs for architects, engineers, you're now going to create a tremendous amount of value in the project. Let's call it 70,000. So if I can build up to 15 stories in that little plot, assuming each unit is worth $70,000 per unit after it's entitled, you just created $14 million of value in equity. And now the city is going to contribute that land that's entitled to, let's say, a joint venture with a nonprofit. Now, just with the equity that I create with the 14 million, I can go get a HUD loan, and HUD loans lend up to 87% of your loan to costs. And that's how you build a 15-story building with no money out of your pocket.
Wow.
Through creative deal structuring. And you have to understand that politicians typically don't understand how real estate works. So when I first explained that to her, she was taking notes. She's like, wow, no one has ever pitched that type of structure to us. Because most developers are greedy. They want the land all to themselves. But when you can structure a deal where maybe you can make the city a partner, right? So they'll get 20, 30% of the developer fee. They can get 20, 30% of the cash flow. And you ever refi, you can get 20 to 30% of the net proceeds. It's basically like borrowing a multifamily property. Simple as that. But you can do that for multifamily properties. And if you know how to negotiate, you can go to your housing authority. So housing authorities, every city has their own housing authorities. Every county has a housing authority, just depending on how your jurisdiction falls apart. If you go to your housing authority, you just simply ask them, hey, how many 1 bedrooms do you need? How many 2 bedrooms do you need? And how many 3 bedrooms do you need for your families, right? And that's what you build. And guess what? If you are able to get allocations for project-based vouchers, so there's 2 types of vouchers in the affordable housing world. There's Section 8 vouchers. Section 8 vouchers follows the tenant. So if this tenant moves from one place to another, that goes to the tenant. But then there's also project-based vouchers. Project-based vouchers is where I grew up in. It stays with a unit. So if I grow up in this unit and I go to college and I graduate and I get a great job and I move out, someone else can move in and enjoy the same subsidy. The advantage of a project-based voucher is that a lender, even though you have affordable rent, the project-based voucher brings that rent back to market. So let's say you have a 50% affordable project at a 50% market rate, but you get vouchers for 50% of the units. You now have 100% market rate building with 50% of the rents coming in on time every single month, guaranteed by the government. I bet you can sleep better at night knowing that rent is coming in.
Absolutely. Wow. This is really interesting. Like, this is the first time I'm hearing this. Yeah.
That's what we do on the
So,
podcast.
yeah, I was just gonna ask. So,
Please.
this episode is available on your YouTube right now, right? Like the podcast,
The
or is it on
podcast,
Spotify?
it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify. If you want to learn more about development, let me show you a few episodes. This is going to be good. So I can show a few episodes because you guys are multifamily folks. This is a really good one on tax exempt bonds. So tax exempt bonds, here, I'll put this in the chat so you guys can see it right away. Now, tax exempt bonds is another financing mechanism, but it's no different than debt. Tax exempt bonds just means that the people that buy the bonds get to earn interest tax-free. Now, the advantage of tax exempt bonds is that if you refinance with a multifamily value add, we've gotten up to 100% leverage with tax exempt bonds. And this episode would explain all about tax exempt bonds. And this is how I found my mentor. I just cold messaged him and I brought him onto the podcast and I just latched onto him and I learned all about creative deal structuring. And I will be first to say I'm only been in affordable housing for 2 years with the podcast. But I understand how to ask questions. I learn really quick and I learn to apply it really quick. So when I told my mentor Alvin's on the screen about the deal structure that I was pitching to cities, he's like, "Oh, that's a really good idea." I was like, "Yeah, dude, I know. I thought of it on the spot." So these are the different ways you can structure these deals and make it better. So if I were to think about multiple different ways of financing these deals, not only do you have tax exempt bonds, you also have HUD loans. So let's just take a PDF or a HUD loan really quick. I'll send this over to here too so you guys can see it. This is a HUD loan. And this is for new construction or a substantial rehabilitation project. And you can see that an affordable project, you can get up to 87% loan to cost with a 1.15 DSCR. The advantage is you can get up to 40-year amortization. Usually it's about 35 years. But I bet you can service your debt a lot easier with a 40-year or 35-year amortization. Just think of a HUD loan as a very big FHA loan for multifamily. I'm sure you guys have heard of FHA for single family homes. So what's the difference between a HUD loan and a tax exempt bond? Okay. Tax exempt bonds, if you were to use it for a new construction project, the disadvantage is that, let's say you're building a $50 million building. When you issue those bonds on the $50 million, you're carrying interest on the entire stack, not as you draw. So, and you got to put aside about 3 years of interest reserves on tax exempt bonds. That's the problem on new construction. That's why it doesn't work as well on new construction, because you're adding too much soft costs in the beginning. The downfall of a HUD loan is that a HUD loan takes about 6 to 12 months for you to actually close on a HUD loan. It takes a really, really long time. The advantage is that your cost of capital is a lot lower, primarily because you only pay interest as you draw upon it. But getting up to 87% loan costs, I think they're like 6% interest rate right now on a HUD loan. They might even be sub sixes now.
Wow.
But that's a really, really advantageous strategy. And if you know how to structure these deals correctly, let me give you another deal. We look at this deal. The selling price of this land was 43 acres in Florida for $6 million. We thought we could build about 900 units on it. Okay. Now, when you get your entitlements, which is that stamp of approval from your city or your county to say, hey, you have our permission now to build 900 units. As soon as it's entitled, as soon as it's approved, that piece of raw dirt is worth at least $20,000 per unit, conservatively. In like West Hollywood and Los Angeles, like 150 grand, 180 grand easily. Well, once it's approved, that land is now worth $18 million. You just created $12 million of value in the dirt, not through renovations, but by getting the project approved. Now, this is how you negotiate it. Let's say you go to the seller, you say, hey, Mr. Seller, I can't give you a big EMD because, well, you just want me to have skin in the game, right? Okay, well, how about I escrow all this capital? And if I don't close, Miss Seller, you can keep my EMD, because that capital is used for my environmental reports, my market studies, my geotech reports, topographical surveys. If I don't close, you can keep all these reports because that's valuable to you and expire anyways. Most sellers would go for it because they understand that costs money and costs like 500 grand to like $1 million. And then you say, hey, Mr. Seller or Miss Seller, I can't close until I get my project approved. Because if I don't get a project approved to build apartments, it's just farmland. It's just, it's not worth what you want for it. Now, why do you want to do that? Because as soon as it is approved, it's now financeable. So because it's worth $18 million right now, you can go get a 50% LTV loan on it, take out 9 million, use 6 up to 9 million, pay off the seller. You still have $3 million left to get your construction docs, your blueprints, pay off your lenders. What do you just
Wow.
do? Just bought an $18 million piece of property for no money out of your pocket.
Yeah. That's amazing.
You guys just learned how to make $12 million today. Cool.
I am so glad this is recorded right now. I'm going to go back and just watch this and also watch your podcast. This is great because I'm actually looking at buying some lands, but like I'm not sure like what exactly I'm gonna do with it. I know it's going to, build equity, but like this would be like a great, a great idea, but there's a lot of things that need to be considered, right? When you're starting on this type of deal, right? So you said
Yes.
you have one going on right now in Princeton, Texas.
396
What
units. We're working
are
on
the
closing a construction loan for it.
awesome. Yeah. So what are the metrics in which you chose that area? And what other
Uh,
markets have you chosen for affordable housing?
so I have learned on my mentor's dime. He has gone through enough experience where if you're buying property in crappy neighborhoods, even though you might do the best job renovating that building, you still can't change the neighborhood around it. So he has 330 units that he refinanced with tax exempt bonds. The problem is you put in like a $50,000 playground for the families and the kids, and they just burn it to the ground. Like
Oh.
might not be the residents, but someone came through. Now,
Mhm.
that's why we decided, why do I want to keep paying $150,000 per unit on a rundown asset that's 30, 40 years old with deferred maintenance when we could build a new one for 180 grand, 200 grand per unit, get a lower cap rate, much less deferred maintenance? Seemed like a no-brainer.
Yes.
And then we chose Princeton because the area median income is like about 93, 95 grand the last time I checked in Anna, Texas. The population growth has gone from 17,000 in 2020 to 28,000 in 2023. 100% growth in 3 years.
Yes.
If you were to look at the multifamily properties in Princeton right now, I think the occupancy is about, there's only like 3 multifamily properties. There's only 10 units that's open. So there's a 98.5% occupancy rate right now in that area. So market selection, we would never do a development unless one, the MSA population is 250,000 people or more. We don't want to be further than 30 minutes from a downtown metropolis anymore. And we will always, always, always explore 3 ways to finance the construction: a HUD loan, tax exempt bonds, traditional financing. Right now, I have a material supplier who is willing to contribute their materials as in kind towards the equity piece of the capital stack. That's advantageous, right? So if you can get a 65% loan, someone comes in with 25%, now all of a sudden you're at 90%. So you only need 10% equity. But that 10% equity, you probably could just get that from the land value itself. And now you have another way to get 100% of the capital stack.
Wow.
This is the cheat code to not having to raise capital through creative deal structuring. Everybody's running around, how do I raise capital? How do I raise capital? But they don't think about solving the other part of the equation. How do I make this a better deal just through creativity alone? And how do you make it so that you can structure the deal with guaranteed rents from the government through project-based vouchers? How do you get property tax savings by going after affordable housing? But most importantly, how do you get your project approved, right? So if you go to a city and you want to have this negotiation, let's take Boston, Massachusetts. That's where I grew up. Boston, Massachusetts has a requirement where if you build 100 units, 20 of those units have to be affordable. So if you ever want to have a conversation, you say, hey, if I go 30% affordable, Miss City, will you give me more density bonuses? Okay. If I go 40% affordable, will you give me property tax exemptions? If I go 50% affordable, will will you approve this project in 6 months instead of 2 years? So this is how you do the dance, but more importantly, figure out how to pull those levers to make a deal that might not have been a deal for a luxury class A multifamily value add strategy into a deal for affordable. And by affordable, we really mean a 4-person household that makes 100 grand a year. That, I'm sure that doesn't sound like a ghetto to anybody. And let's take Cambridge, Massachusetts as an example. The payment standards on a 3-bedroom home in Cambridge is $5,000 per month.
Wow. This is great.
I just want to pause and
Busy.
just let it sit in a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, wow. Well, here in California, we're paying like 3-bedroom here is almost $5,000 for me and my family too. So like,
Now imagine getting that rent guaranteed by the government every single month. How do you value properties? Through net operating income. How do you create value? Property tax assumptions. If we build $300,000 per unit. Right now I'm working on a 261 unit deal in LA. 300 grand times 261. Assume that 78 million. If I save just 1% of property tax, get away because I'm doing affordable, 783 grand. Divide that on a 5 cap. I'm pretty sure it's a 4.5 cap in Los Angeles. But if I do that, I just create $15.6 million value for the project. And that's how you can wedge yourself into deals, not by contributing your capital, but contributing your intellectual capital.
wow.
Learning how to creatively structure the deals will save you a lot of money. Learning how to apply for the welfare tax exemptions will create $15.6 million for someone.
Wow. So my follow-up question here is, for this type of project, there is little or no need to raise capital, right? If you do the, creative financing correctly, what other type of relationships do you need to build that, like for us with like traditional type of deals in multifamily don't usually, build and nurture?
Great question.
Mhm.
Wedging yourself into deals. This is what's worked for me. I'm not saying this is the only option. If you can look for developers that have gotten projects approved for like 20 to 40 units, like 10 to 20 townhomes, big enough of projects that, they're not just a single family new construction build permit type of thing, like big enough so that they know who calls the shots in that city or that county.
Okay.
That's a relationship you want.
Mm.
And then only go to the areas where they want you. It's a very steep hill to climb for development. Don't make it steeper by picking a city or a county where they're probably not educated about affordable housing. They think affordable housing is just a ghetto. So they're going to do everything in their power to stop you. Another way around that is like, just do senior housing, because no one ever really opposes senior housing. But seniors, probably the income threshold still qualifies if you think about it. So that's another way to go about it. Build a relationship, because these projects, if you want city-owned land, it needs to be in a city where they're open to it, and the person that is trying to allocate you the land is not just all talk. There's a lot of people in the world that just says affordable housing, that they want affordable housing, but it's just a soundbite. You need to find the people that actually cares about affordable housing, that actually wants to make impact for that city and state, but understand that it's really workforce housing, not low-income housing.
Workforce housing. Okay.
You can help a lot of people that way, just by creating deal structuring.
Amazing. This is really great information. Oh, okay. How old is she?
She's 3. Thank you. Hi. Can you say hi?
Aw.
You're okay. You're okay. Sorry,
Aw,
guys.
that's
It's Saturday morning.
okay.
Sorry. You're
She
okay.
just wants daddy on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Mhm.
Daddy go.
Oh.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Daddy will go in like 15 minutes, okay?
Okay. So Beza, Corey, do you have any questions so far or any comments?
No questions. I've definitely seen presentations on this before, and understand the advantages, but it's just not my wheelhouse right now.
Totally
Oh yeah, it doesn't have to
understandable.
be in your wheelhouse, Corey. I mean, I would just say you just got to do and just consider these financing strategies as just another tool in your tool belt. That's what I would consider it. Tax exempt bonds. The requirement for tax exempt bonds is just that 50% of the units got to be set aside for affordable housing. That's all it is. And again, right, if you're in Cambridge, affordable means that the 4-person household makes 150 grand a year. So those are your ideal tenants, because anybody that makes more money, they'll probably move out in 2 years.
Yeah, this
Beza,
was
how about
great
yourself?
yeah, no, this was a great information for me too. Uh,
Mhm.
it's just another resource. I will go back and look at thank you for the links on the chat. I'm gonna look into them and yeah, take my notes there again. It was a new concept. It's not something I've heard in the last year at all. So yeah, no, this was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no one ever really talks about it. So I think these are all going to be good resources for you. If you guys ever want to learn more about like the due diligence period, this is going to be a good one to talk about. So you know exactly. I think just by listening to like a few of these podcasts, you will know more than 95% of the world about development, to be honest with you. Just by listening to these. Let's see, what else is a good one? If you guys are multifamily and you just want to do value add strategies, these are going to be really good tactical type of strategies. Like how do you manage your construction jobs for these properties and stuff like that. And this is going to be a really good one. And then you also have this one. How do you raise rents on affordable projects, right? So sometimes you might see projects coming up and they are on what we call our HAP contracts. HAP contracts gets renewed every five years. But if you see a affordable project coming up for affordable housing, well, then all of a sudden you can see that that's not the right table, silly goose. Now you can see all of the deals where you can raise rents on 100 units all at a time because the government is going to approve auto rental.
Wow. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
all these podcasts is going to be really, really important to listen to, just to expand your mindset. But more importantly, it'll gear you up so that when that day comes, you can structure that deal correctly and wedge yourself into the deal. Because hey, if you can save someone if you can create $15 million of value just through property tax savings, you don't think you can get 500 grand? People pay for results, not for time.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm copying all of this YouTube links right now, so I can watch them
Absolutely.
later. Yeah. So
I mean, my honest advice, and if I were to expand on a few other things, is I hope you all start your own podcast, to be honest with you. I used to be very, very
Mhm.
introverted. And when I started going into space and I wanted to raise capital if I want to raise hundreds of millions of dollars for affordable housing, I knew I had to kind of get back out there. The podcast has been a great mechanism for me to build relationships with people, right? A lot of people sometimes like, oh, how do you add value? How do you add value? When I go to networking events, I never pitch anything. I bring people and offer them to come back onto my podcast. I have been able to expand my network. So now I've got people from Nevada, from Arizona, people in state authorities that are in charge of like allocating state housing tax credits to actually come onto the podcast and explain how it all works, because there's no mechanism or no education in the world that really talks about how this all works. And I've been able to bring that into light. But whatever you're passionate about, it could be multifamily, it could be single family, doesn't matter what it is. You can start your own podcast. And that has been the best way for me to build relationships, to be honest with you. Like, yes, like for episode 100, I brought in this guy named Per Wimmer. Like, he has his own island, his own UK investment bank. He bought one of the
Wow.
first tickets to space with Richard Branson. So the podcast has been a great mechanism. And I think we're always out there hunting for deals. But if you were to create a podcast, now you can attract the deals into your life instead. And I think that will give you all the time, the freedom of time, freedom to spend time with your family, et cetera, et cetera. That I think that's why we all got into this space for. It's to be more efficient with our time. So I hope you
Yes.
all start your own podcast. If you guys need even single family based, if that's what you're working on, I have contractors that I brought onto the podcast from Atlanta, from Kansas City, from Detroit, from Birmingham, Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama. I have brought all those contractors on. So you can look through the podcast or just DM me on Instagram anytime, and I can give you the names of those contractors. I
Mhm.
was simply trying to solve a problem for myself because when I got started, I was so scared. I didn't know what if a contractor runs off with my money, blah, blah, blah. All those horror stories you hear about in real estate. So I
Mhm.
brought on all these people. And when I bring on these contractors, I also bring on investors that use them. And I interview them and I create that relationship while I'm also vetting people at the same time, while I'm also creating content at the same time. So I have people that are
That's
reaching out just because of the podcast right now, but it took a really long time. It's really, really lonely in the beginning when you're creating the podcast.
Mhm.
But I hope your why is strong enough for why you're doing this. The whole reason why I started this was because my family came from China with $1,000 in their pocket, and my mom's first job, she made like $3 an hour. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Boston, Chinatown, with 9 people. And one night, my mom had $5,000 of cash out, and she was ready to bring that $5,000 of cash back home to China to repay her relatives. That night, we got robbed, and
Mhm.
I don't know if you can imagine losing your entire years of salary in one night, but that's what happened to my mom. And she said, Kent, bad things, rough things happen to good people, but it's about how you bounce back that matters. And she said the only thing that kept her going was that she was on a wait list for affordable housing. So she waited 3.5 years before she got that home. But when she got that home, she was in tears. She was so happy. And that's why I'm on this mission to create the largest affordable housing investment community in the United States. And I hope you all join me in this mission because every single person I put in one of these homes is helping someone like my mom. And I can't imagine what life would have been if no one ever helped my mom. So I appreciate you all just giving me the time out of your day today to listen, to give this a shot, to give affordable housing a consideration. Because without people like you guys, I would never have the home I grew up in. So I really, really appreciate you all today. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
No, absolutely. No, thank you so much for all of, the wisdom that you imparted to us. This is not just new information, but this is life-changing for a lot of people, the people that, we can make an impact in, especially with the economy right now, just all the bad things happening. Families are really just affected. And so this is a great way, to help them out and solve that issue with housing. And wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much, Kent. Corey and Beza, if you have the time, make sure you listen to Kent's podcast, follow him on YouTube. Even though if you don't do affordable housing, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of information there that can help us with, like the traditional deals in multifamily that we are doing. But this is just great information. It opened my personally my eyes into another world of multifamily real estate.
Sure. Yes. Thank you so much, Nate. This was helpful. And yeah, I'll dig more and I'll follow you. You too.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank you.
sharing. Great content and
Thank you.
taking your
I
number
appreciate
down.
you all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kent, what is the best way for us to reach out to you if we have any other questions besides
Yes.
Instagram?
You have my number in the group chat right now, 617 nine six
Awesome.
two 0339. So I'm only giving my number to you guys because you guys joined. And I trust that you guys are not creepy stalkers.
Awesome. And do
No,
you have a
but
LinkedIn as well?
I do have LinkedIn. It's also Kenti, just Kenti. Super straightforward, but that's where I've been expanding my network a lot more on LinkedIn. So you guys can find me anywhere, access me anywhere, ask me any questions. If you guys ever have people that bring you land deals, send them my way. I can always take a look at them really quick. If you guys ever have any affordable deals, send them my way. I can look at them really quick as well. My network has just been growing exponentially. So I just know how to connect a lot of opportunities with the right people and build the right team around those opportunities. So this
Okay.
was fun. I had so much fun. Thank you so much for being so
Yeah.
engaging. Honestly, all three of you, I didn't want to just sit up here and make a presentation because I think that's super boring. It's always about what I can do for you guys. And I hope that some of those finance mechanisms you can apply to your investment journey, HUD loan, Texas exempt bonds, LIHTC. I mean, they can all be applied towards multifamily value add, not just ground up construction. But you guys also know how to look at land now. You guys also know how
Yeah.
to creatively structure these deals if anybody ever sends you a land. Because I know what happened to me when I was in my first year. I had no idea what land was. I had no idea what to do with it. But now you know how to negotiate on an option contract. You know how to not close on it. And you know how to create $12 million value. And you know how to buy an $18 million piece of property for no money in your pocket. So let's go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for giving us that blueprint.
You bet. No problem.
Thanks, Kent.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, actually, before we go, can we take a quick picture? Let me see if I can figure out how to, yeah, there. Okay. Beza, is it okay if you turn on your video just so we can take a quick screenshot? Maybe she's not there. That's fine. Okay, let's just do it. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Okay, and then we can all head out back to the main room now. Okay. All right.
Thanks.
We'll
Corey,
see
I'm
you
also in sub
guys.
two, so I know what you're working on.
Oh, sub
Okay.
2. Oh, good. Sub 2. Okay,
Cool.
let me just put that in writing. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys in the main room. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Thank
Right.